it's coming to add. But what ended up happening is that when it's adding and focusing on the Isofis, the basic things are not neglected, it's not spoken about. And therefore, some people that never learned the basics, they only hear the additional things, so they think that that's only what's important. They said that they asked the Rebbe would give out dollars for tankisten. Tankisten were the Bachim that used to go on Mivtzoyim on tanks, and Mivtzoyim tanks. So the Rebbe would give out Mivtzoyim to those Bachim. So somebody asked the Rebbe, why don't you give them dollars? So someone asked the Rebbe, why don't you give dollars to the Bachim that said, come to Seder and learn? So the Rebbe said, that's basics. The Rebbe said, if I'm going to give dollars to such people, it's a bonus. That's what they have to do. So I'm only giving dollars for those that are going above and beyond. They're going on Mivtzoyim as well. But obviously you can imagine that what will most Bachim care about more? They care about more Mivtzoyim, because then they can get the Rebbe's dollars. And Seder they didn't care about so much. So the Rebbe's kavanah was it should be a Isofah. But it ended up that some people that either weren't mature or didn't care, they just focused on something which was the Isofah, not the Ikar. So that's why there are people that unfortunately think that Chassidus is that overrides halacha, and they act that way, but it's wrong. It's impossible. Nothing in Chassidus can go against halacha. There's even a true of the Rebbe. The Rebbe went to somebody. The Rebbe said, "Minhag Chabad is to go according to Shulchan Aruch." Because people always, it's something that has to be said. Because some people they're always asking, always 1 second, but Chabad, everything is al pisha. It's only Chassidus are coming to add on top of that, never to take away. Huh?
But we said, Rabbi said that should be similar to
so we rely on opinion. The B'diavad means that there's different opinions. So we rely on other opinions. So Chassidus will pass like a second opinion.
We're not allowed to allow B'diavad.
In certain cases you are allowed. Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed. Shulchan Aruch says yes, so we do it also. What is actually the problem of shaving and a chup? So we spoke about this a few times already, but just say again, I don't know if the question came again or was in the past. The problem with shaving is a Isur Deiraisa. That's according to our Paiskim. The Tzemach Tzedek is our Paisik. According to the Tzemach Tzedek, shaving your beard is a Isur Deiraisa. So that's the problem with shaving. Regarding a chup, it's not a Isur Deiraisa. It's a questionable what's considered the chup. Truth is, it could be considered as Isur Deiraisa as well. It could be included in the Isur of Leiselchu B'chukas HaGoyim. In plain Shulchan Aruch, it's a Isur Deiraisa. In plain Shulchan Aruch, it says to have a bloidis, which in modern Hebrew, blorit, is another word for chup. It's a Isur Deiraisa. The question is, what's considered the chup? Does it have to be very big, 5-6 inches, or could it be only a little bit longer, a little bit of bangs? It doesn't. As in Shulchan Aruch, it's not so clear. But the basis for it is based on Isur Deiraisa. In addition, now the Rebbe writes in Tanya that somebody that's mesalsel beside it, someone that combs his hair, makes a hairstyle, that's mamshich upon him, klippe, brings upon him tumah. So those are the two inyanim with the chup, and regarding shaving, it's a clear psak of the Tzemach Tzedek, and that's why we don't shave.
So chatzitza is for Torah also.
Huh?
It's also chatzitza for Torah.
Also could be if it's longer than normal. Yeah.
Rabbi,
So why snags?
I don't know. I never spoke to a snack to ask him what's the heter for it. I imagine they're going to say.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I imagine they'll say that a chup has to be a certain size, and if it's not that big, then it's not an issue. I don't know. I never spoke to him to actually ask him his heter for it. Why doesn't Postal have a rov, and why doesn't anyone arrange one? Postal had a rov many years ago for a short amount of time, and then he left. And no, that's number one. Who? 4 years times. Probably before you were born. Before you were born too. Why doesn't it have now? Because most communities, the community is built up of a bunch of people that have an interest in building a community. The community of Polesville from day one wasn't created in a way that there's a kavanah for a community. There's a kavanah to have a slaughterhouse. And in order for that to work, they wanted to have people to be there. But the kavanah wasn't to build a community. It was never the kavanah. Rabashkin wanted to make that happen, so he invested a lot in the community. And he put on it all for, like I said, in the beginning, but then it didn't work out, the guy left. But it wasn't, it's not a regular type of community. The people that live here call it the community of revolving doors. People come and go all the time. Especially the Polish Shechevra, they come for 2-3 years and then they go and they leave. They constantly come and go. So it isn't really so much of a settled community. So that's why there aren't many people that really invest in the community itself. There are always people that bring it up, that people that want to invest in the community, want to build it up, they want to bring it up. The problem with the Rebbe is you have to pay him a salary, and that comes a whole other headache. Who's going to pay for the salary? Yeah?
It's more than $1.
It's more than $1. The town was $1, no one wants to pay. Imagine what a salary of a Rav there has to be. So over the years, there are always people ask shaylas to, that people ask questions to. Rabbi Gurkov is always in show, people ask him questions. Now we have Rabbi Zirkin, people ask him questions all the time. But proper enough to bring down now, the main issue probably now would be an interest of people that want to do it, and then second of all, someone that's going to have a salary for it. Are there any worlds higher than Atzilus? Postful. Yes, in Kabbalah there are words higher than Atzilus, something called Olam HaToyu, something called Olam HaAkudim, something called Olam HaAk, or not really Olam, but the Madrega of Ak. This is also higher than Ak, so that's not really called Olamis. But Olam in general, it says that Atzilus is the highest Olam, and that's it. But in detail, sometimes we'll talk about the levels above it, and also called Olamis. Are the myths of the Gemara, Midrashim, dragons, phoenix, mermaids, and salamanders true? The Bacher doesn't know his English. Myth, by definition, means not true. So you can't ask, is a lie true? You can ask, are the legends, are the Gemara stories about these Inyanim, are they true? So it's a machlekes amongst the Mefarshim. Certain stories of these things are said to be true. Certain ones seem to be exaggerated. So it's not clear to me. There is a story with the Rebbe. There was I forget the name. There was a couple that were sculpturers. Is that right? Sculptures. They were both sculpturers. So sculpturers. Singular and plural is the same thing? Yeah. Sculpturer, no?
I don't think there's a
Sculpturer is one. So
sculpturer is one?
And sculpturer is one.
And the actual thing is a sculpture.
Yeah.
So the sculpturer makes a sculpture. He sculpts into a sculpturer. So there's a man and a woman, and the man started working on a sculpture of a phoenix. A phoenix, for those that don't know, is a type of bird which somehow burns itself up and revives itself from its ashes. There's a gufa, there are many different ways of looking at it. So he was making such a sculpture, and he passed away. And his wife was also a sculpturess, right? Pashtus, yeah? Riss. She was a sorceress. Is a sorcerer. So she wanted to finish off the sculpture, and there were people that told her that this is a pagan statue, something which from the Avodah Zarah, so you shouldn't do such a thing. But so she was, I guess she was frum, or she was close to frumkeit. But on the other hand, she wanted to finish off her husband's job. So you can imagine, her husband passed away, she wants to finish off the job he was working on. So she asked the Rebbe. The Rebbe opened up a Sefer Oiv in Tanakh, and over there, Iyov. And Iyov, in Iyov, there's a pasuk over there which talks about the bird called Choil, and Rashi describes it as a bird, as the phoenix that burns itself and comes back again. So therefore the Rebbe told her this is something which is from Yiddishkeit, there's no problem making it. It doesn't mean that the Rebbe said it means Kipshuta. It means that the Gemara, the Rashi is talking about it. So it's come to the pastures, there's truth to it, Kipshuta. Some of these things, says dragons are not really mentioned in Chazal, what Bachram think as dragons. Dragons are these flying dinosaurs with a breathe fire. So that combination I don't think we find in Chazal. The word drakoin you find in Chazal all the time, but it can simply mean a snake also. Mermaids are mentioned one time in Rashi and in the Gemara, and the fire salamanders are also mentioned. So those things are
Scientifically they exist also.
Scientifically they exist also. You've seen them before. Fire salamanders are types of salamanders which do not get affected by fire. They come out of fire. They get created by fire. So again, there's a simple yid that just believes that it's kipshuta, it's true, and that's it, doesn't ask any questions. There are the people that try to always make it rational, try to explain things, but bichlal, they're always finding new species. People think that the whole world was explored. They're always finding new things, and things that they thought were extinct, they find them to be extant. Yeah? It's the opposite of extinct, is extant. It's not extinct anymore. They find all the time. It's actually it's a half hour away from Postal, 20 minutes away. There's a place called Decorah. They found in Decorah a certain worm that they thought it was dead for 60 years. It didn't exist anywhere. Found it again around here. You want to visit a worm? I met. So these things are. So but what the science says doesn't mean anything. The question what the Mefarshim and the Torah say. The scientists all say that these things are not Kipshutei, but the Mefarshim, some of them say yeah, some of them say no. It's different ways of looking at it. A simple Yid doesn't ask questions. It's true, and that's it. And Mashiach comes, we'll understand, and we'll see how it works. Why can the Mashgiach take away a Bacher's phone for using it during davening if the Mashgiach himself is on his phone at the same time? Ooh. Why can a cop go and give you a ticket for speeding when he's speeding to catch you? Huh?
What if he's not speeding to catch you? On his phone to catch you.
How do you know?
Doesn't make any sense. Because what if you see it on your phone to see? Unless you're using a camera, like I
You never know. You never know. The Mashgiach is his job to catch the Bacher and to make the Bacher not go on his phone. And that's why he's doing it. Hopefully when you'll grow up, you'll make sure that you learned your lesson and you won't do it. That's the message the Mashgiach is trying to do. You're asking if there's hypocrisy over here? Maybe. But the question is, he has to do his job. But just because he's not holding on this level doesn't take away from what he has to do in his job.
Why
Schwach answer. No, that's not
yourself?
Doesn't it say first fix yourself, then fix others, or something like that?
And yeah, but it also says that if you know Aleph, teach Aleph. So whatever you have to teach.
Yeah, but he doesn't even have Aleph.
JJ.
He knows Aleph. He teaches Aleph.
Yeah, but he doesn't even have Aleph.
He knows it.
Doesn't know what, so let you know.
It says that if a bad decree is put upon the Jews, tzaddikim get punished first. So why should I want to become a tzaddik? Every father would do whatever he can to save his children. Every father is willing to go into fire and water to save his child. Father's willing to have Mesiras Nefesh to die for his child. He said, why do you want to have a child? You're going to die for him. because I want to have a child, and